Before we start creating our report, let's take a look at the visual overview on pages AC 374 and 375. You see that we have the date, title, page number in the page header. In the details section, we have invoice date, customer, city, contract type, invoice amount, and paid. We are also hiding duplicates on invoice date. We have a group footer, which shows the subtotal of the invoice amount for that particular group. Down below we see the group header. And the group header for this particular section is on page 19 or page 18. And schematic plans is the group header for the one invoice we have in that particular group with a subtotal and then the grand total at the bottom. Now take a look at the paid field to the far right. You can see that the paid field is centered and the checkbox below it is also centered. That is fine-tuning, and we save fine-tuning until the very end. You're going to make sure everything else works and all your subtotals, all your lines, everything works, and then we'll do that fine-tuning because that is an exception to the rule. When you take things and you move them separately. So we'll save that to the very end. So let's start by going to Create, Blank Report, and I'll go ahead and close my field list and open my Property sheet. I want to make sure that it says Selection Type Report. I want to be on the Data tab, and I'm going to click for my record source, the drop-down list, and I want to find QRY Invoices by Item. I'll select it. It's now setting that particular object as the record source for this report. I'll close it. Add existing fields. Now you see that here are the fields that are in that query. And I'm moving over to page AC 380 and I'm simply going to double click those fields onto my report in the order that they're shown here. Invoice date, customer, city, contract type, invoice amount, and invoice paid. And I'm done, and I'll go ahead and close my field list. Now these aren't going to look good. We'll do a little bit of editing on these fields right now, but we're not going to worry too much about them until we get the report to work. My mantra is make it work and then make it pretty. And my students get really sick of hearing that. But it's a good rule to live by. Invoice date is fine. Customer, I'm going to expand it out a little bit. Remember, we've got a page margin here, and we're not even sure what our page margins are yet. So let's go to Page Setup, and right now I've got 0.25. I know that I should be setting page margins of left and right, 0.5 and top and bottom, 0.7. That's over on page AC 387. Now you should always set your page margins and the page layout before you do the fine-tuning on the report, because if you set everything up and then you have to change your layout or your margins, you're going to have to change it again. So top should be 0.7, bottom 0.7, left is 0.5, and right is 0.5. So now I see my page margin, and that gives me less space to work with. So customer, I brought out a little bit. Let's change invoice paid to take the invoice out, and then set the size of this. We're not going to center it yet, so we're changing that size just so I have some space to work with. Invoice amount, I'm concerned about this because I'm going to end up in the millions. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it out right now. I should have plenty of room for millions. Then I'll take city, and you don't want the city field to wrap. And so let's take a look. And it looks like East Grand Rapids is probably one of my longer cities. I don't want to bring it in too close. I might end up with longer cities, even longer cities. And that gives me basically this much space to work with. And so I can bring out contract type a bit. And I'm going to leave a little bit of space there, just for general purposes. At the very end, then I can take up the rest of that space. And I'm going to go ahead and save this report because we've actually done quite a bit to it right now. And so the name of this report is RPT Invoices by Item. Key that in, click OK. So now we've saved it. As you go through the book, you see that the book is having you do the fine-tuning on the fields first. And what I'm recommending is that you don't do the fine-tuning on the fields first. You set up the report, you make it work, and then you fine-tune. So our next step, as you see in the book, our next steps are over on page AC 382 through 83. We're going to add a grouping field. Now when the grouping field is added in Layout View, your whole report goes a little sideways. Now if you add that same field in Design View, you don't get any of this weirdness going on. So I'm going to go Home, go to Design View. I'm going to click Group and Sort. I'm going to add a group, and I'm going to group on Invoice Item. It creates the invoice item header, but it doesn't put the field in that header. So now I'm going to go to Existing Fields, and I'm going to find Invoice Item, and I'm going to slide it in here. It's going to add my invoice item. It's also going to add a label. I'll click on it to take it out. I'm going to take Invoice Item, basically align it over here with the rest of these controls. If I want to, and then I'll drag it out. So I'm going to save it again, and I'm going to go back to Layout. Now it looks similar to what you see over on page AC 383, but you see none of that weird moving the controls around has gone on. The next thing that they would have you do in the textbook is now take these controls out of the group. I'm actually going to leave all of my controls grouped until the very end. Removing them from out of the layout too soon means that I have to keep moving things separately. And as long as they're together in layout, if I resize the city, I resize the label. And so I just prefer the way that works. And we're looking pretty good. And what we're going to do here is, I'm not going to remove the layout, so I'm moving over to page AC 386. And I'm going to be working with things in Design View. So over here, I'm going to add my Group and Sort again. And with the invoice item, More. And it asks me to keep the group header and the first record together on one page. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to come back and change this later, but we'll go ahead and see how that works. Invoice item, I'm going to select it and set the format to bold. And then the book walks through sizing to fit. Sizing to fit can be a bit of a problem. You really want your labels and your controls to be the same size. You want to move them as a group so they don't get out of alignment. You want things to align. And so by keeping things together in the layout, like I have here, I'm not going to have that problem. And I'm not going to go through this whole process of size to fit. I am going to go in and I'm going to take invoice date, and if we look at this in Layout View, which is a good place to, I want this and this, both of those, to be aligned left. They're going to set my margins. This one's okay, this one's okay, this one's okay, this is okay, and right now, again, we're going to come back to this one. Now I'm going to come in, and here the can grow property for this one and this one is already set. It's just not working. So I'll go back to Design View. I'm through with Group and Sort for a while, so I'll turn that off. And I'm going to open up the Properties sheet. And you can open up the property sheet by going to property sheet here on your ribbon, or you can pick a control. And since I want to do it for customer, I can double click and it'll open up the property sheet. Go to format. I want to find the Can Grow. And it already says yes, but it's not working. So I'm going to go no, and then yes. And by doing that, both of them should start working. Got it. Close Print Preview, and I'm going to save. Now we want to get rid of the alternate back color again. So again, good way to do that is click on the back, alternate back color. We're going to change that to no color. And I want to do the same down in here. And it can be a little harder to get to in the... So I just gave it a little pull here. Alternate back color. I'm going to go no color. And that's working. And then I'm going to bring this back up. Because adding space in the detail section is going to significantly increase the page count in your report. Because this space that's added here would appear between each detail record, all 172 of them. So we want to keep that space down as short as possible. I'll save again. So we've removed the alternate color, and we've set this up with bold. And adding lines to the report is something I'm going to do last. Some other things that I need to do to this, let's take a look at this again in Print Preview. I've got all sorts of lines on this, borders. I want to get rid of all of them. So close Print Preview, and I'll select all of these objects, and I'm going to open up the property sheet again, and we've got border style, and I'm going to change the border style to transparent, and that should take care of the background there. I just resized this a little bit so I can see it better, and there we go. So far it's working. I could go close Print Preview and save again. The next thing is I want to hide duplicates on my date. So again, I'll double click it, come down, and find hide duplicates, change it to yes. And you see how I'm changing that, and I'm basically just putting my mouse pointer over the property and double clicking. And since it's a toggle, it's yes or no. Double clicking it turns it to no. Double clicking it again turns it to yes. And I'm going to go ahead and save again. We have more custom design that we need to do now. We need to add our totals, subtotals. We're going to add our page header. Then we're going to add the lines. And we're going to fine-tune the report by centering that paid columns. But so far our report is working. And I'll go ahead and close Print Preview, save again. I'll be ready to move on to the next section.